Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Lost series. I am one of your hosts, Laura Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Odysseus Historical.
We continue our coverage of The Heroes, Joe's second standalone, and the next First Law entry. We cover Reasoned Debate and Chains of Command. So let's get started. As usual, we want to thank you for your support, and we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We hope you enjoyed your holiday break. We know we did, right?
Yes, we're back after a week break, aren't we?
Yeah. We hope you. We hope you enjoyed your time, and also maybe perused our social medias and
Maybe
our YouTube. We did gain it.
Yearned for our voices.
Yearned for our voices. We did gain a couple subscribers, so that was timely, right?
Yeah.
That was nice.
I mean, we even had 25 people listen on Christmas Day, which is some dedication right there.
Hell yeah, baby. We love that. They're probably pagans, but whatever. We'll take
Merry
all comers.
Christmas to you, 25.
Merry
You know who you
Solstice
are.
Day or whatever the fuck. But yeah, no, we just want to thank you all for your continued support, and we just want to remind you to follow us on our social media pages and our YouTube pages as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll move on to our next segment, which is our community interaction segment, which is boys, what are we doing? We're doing the memeing every chapter, right? We're just shouting that out.
Yep, make sure you sign up for the rest of the Heroes meme every chapter. I think he's still currently doing three or four a week, isn't he? So that's
Yeah. They're honestly not too far off from where we are. I believe they're right around the same spot. So
he's Spaceman's really outdone himself this time. He's managed to time it perfectly, hasn't he?
it's actually it's almost like he listened to the podcast or something, you know?
What a coincidence.
What a coinky dink.
But we need other people to contribute because the Bully Niner can't carry the whole fucking house. I mean, we would, as always, of course, love to participate, but
But we can't.
we can't. So we need you, dear viewers and listeners, to make up for our slack.
Yeah. Looking at the top for the last month, I think it's like 99% bloody Niner.
There's recently a couple people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's one this week. The meme of the week this week, which we'll get to later, is somebody else, which is good.
Mhm.
But we always do appreciate you, bloody Niner. Don't get us wrong. We're not having a go.
Yes.
Please.
No.
continue.
We just like some variety, some diversity. You know what I'm saying?
That's a strong word to use in there, Jeffrey. Coming out of your mouth.
And I've just scrolled down a little bit there, and there's just a fucking cheese sandwich. So I imagine that's a joke about wearing.
I call it a cheese trap. Well, yes, go ahead and head on over to that subreddit, House of the Meme Maker, and join the Memeing Every Chapter soiree. So, we'll move on to our first chapter read-through, which is Reasoned Debate. And so we are here from the perspective of our boy, Beck. Beck is, how would you say, scared?
A pussy?
No, let's not do that. He's not like
He is reasonably scared for a man of his age with no
teenage boy.
Teenage boy. A man of his age.
Okay.
In this time period, with absolutely zero experience. So I do feel for him. It's easy to be like, he's a weakling, but this is 90% of people in war. This is why they put people in lines. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so Beck is... were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, and even though he is inexperienced, he can tell that shit is not going down well right now. So I don't blame him at all.
Yeah, more people of their side is coming over than what we have. That's not good. Yeah, so Beck is in the house still that Flood had left them in. It's Beck, Reft, Colving, and Stoddard, and Brait, I believe.
Yep.
Along with maybe a couple of other Northmen, I'm not so sure. But he's at the window on the second floor of the house, him and Reft, and they're supposed to be shooting arrows out the window. Reft is, Beck is not. Beck is scared. He's watching the Union slowly overwhelm the Northern lines because the Northern lines in Oseram at the bridge is full of thralls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a shield wall, but it's starting to kind of slowly come apart, right? And he sees a couple of men like catch on fire, or they just get shot with a bunch of arrows. One guy screams and jumps off the bridge into the water.
Oh, he does the Wilhelm scream, I imagine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Perfect opportunity.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Beck is freaking out internally. He keeps thinking like he's about to say, "Let's run," and he turns to Reft to just say, "Let's run," but Reft is shooting arrows, right? He's cursing, and Beck is too scared to do anything. And then he hears Reft, basically say, "Okay, I'm going down." He goes downstairs. He pulls out his knife and hatchet, and Beck is just like, we're just watching him, doesn't say anything. And he looks out the window. He sees the Union men are flooding across the square, and they, the heavily armored ones, right? Talking about, head to toe encased in armor. And he's fucking Christ, and fucking, he shoots an arrow, but without even really like looking. He just closes his eyes.
It's like whenever in Skyrim, whenever you like pull the arrow back in fear, and then you like let it go right away, and it's kind of like this is sad little like. Bloop.
Yeah, it goes like a foot falls into the floor.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then he realizes that the Union are basically, they're all around the house, so he can't even run away if he wanted to. And someone's shooting a flat bow at the window. Beck kind of like goes to the ground, like fuck, freak, he's like freaking out. So then he pissed himself, right? He's nervous. He gets up, draws his father's sword. And he kind of starts to go down the stairs, but he's like inching slowly, and he's like peeking around the corner, and he's like he's very, very cognizant of his like how easily his body can just get pierced by something, right? And he sees that it's chaos down there. That there are two of other Flood's northern lads are on the floor. One's leaking blood, the other one's just saying no, no, no. He said that Colving had this wild, mad look on his chubby face, jabbing at a Union man who got through the door, squeezed through. And Reft came out of the shadows and hit him in the back of the helmet. And then sprawling on top of Colving. And then, basically they killed him. And, Reft closes the door. He's, yelling to keep him out. And then a Union guy bursts through the shutters, right near the bottom of the stairs, not too far from where Beck is. And Beck could have stabbed him in the back, but Beck it's that paralyzing fear. Is like, what if it goes wrong? What if I miss? What if he spins around? Or what,
Valid, but also because of this, little buddy dies. Yeah. His little friend.
Yeah. Brait sees the guy, spins around to poke at him with the spear, the Union man that came in, but the guy was able to basically thrust his chest and split Brait open to his chest.
Oh.
Thrust his sword into Brait's chest and split him open, right? And yeah, and then Stoddard at this point is yelling, "Help, help," but Beck, he just didn't turn. He doesn't help though. He just backs slowly up the stairs the way he came. And then when he got up to the stairs, he hurried to like a cupboard that was open, and he took off the shelf that was in there, and he just ducked in and closed the door.
He said, "Fuck this shit."
Yeah, fuck it. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, so.
You really got to feel for these guys. They are not prepared for this.
Yeah, no. But again, they are kids. They are 14 years old or something.
This is
like
great, though, actually. Go ahead, George.
I feel like this is all Flood's fault. He's put them in a really bad place. And then he's just fucked off.
Yeah, but he said that the other lads were even, like, worse than these.
He's making it up. He's just like, I'll go and see it.
Maybe he is. Maybe
we
he
never
is.
see any evidence of any other younger kids, so you know.
That's a good point. I do like George. You always have it with like the worst case scenario. You're totally right. I bet that's what's going on. These boys in this house, though, I like this scene a lot for two reasons. One, it's like showing how the North is. There's a lot of like passive storytelling being told here, and I really enjoy it because these are just boys, and yeah, we've been told that they're just boys, but here we get to really see that they are like no match. And the Union has always been seen as like the weak faction. Like their infantry are just kind of, unless they're in a battle line, they can't stand a match to a Carl. But not fighting Carls. And these guys are armored head to toe. These are like the King's Own busting in the door. They know that there are no weapons that are gonna harm them. Like they're just gonna walk in and they're just slaughtering them. And I love that the fact that the Union is put in this position of being like these nameless, faceless killing machines. And we don't see it very often, but I think it's a really good dynamic to emphasize the point that, yeah, the Union is, on the whole, like, they're the people that they don't want to get into a fight. But, like, here, they're, like, on the ball, and they're just slaughtering boys, and I think it's a really, really good dynamic showing a different aspect of the Union versus the North, rather than just being, like, barbarians versus civilians, like how they've kind of played it out before.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think all the Union men that are entering this house are like encased head to toe in armor, right? Because then the ref wouldn't be able to kill that one guy that came in, right? But there are some. There are some. I don't think it's everyone, but there are some, obviously. But yeah, I do enjoy the idea, like the Union for like the perception that Southerners are soft, right? From the Northmen's perspective, the Union Army, like those heavy infantry. That's no joke.
No,
that's
they don't
no
fuck
joke.
Dude, I mean, like even the Carls don't have. I mean, you'd have to hit them with an axe or a mace or try to poke them with a spear. That like the normal like weapons that a lot of these guys have, they're not going to do anything. It's full plate, like
right. Slashing. It's more like you got to do like heavy impact to truly damage them, get them off their feet. But George, did you want to say anything before I move on to the next part?
I mean, apart from Ghost, we haven't really seen any like standout Union combat, have we? I mean, we didn't really see a lot of it in the first trilogy or in West of Cold either. We were kind of like away from the main combat, so it is good to see that the King's Own actually are like an effective fighting force, even if it is our boys that they're slaughtering.
Even just kids.
Damn, they're like it's like America, guys. Damn, they're good at killing children. Hit him with the drone, boys. Like this is the equivalent of that.
Get the cannons out, go.
Yeah.
Drone strike a wedding or something.
Yeah, there was one terrorist in there, allegedly. We can't take the risk.
Yeah. So all right. So we'll move on. Now we're back in the inn with Finry, Alise, and Lord Governor Mead, and they're Finnery's seething, right? Because Mead, if you remember, had basically kind of like said, "Bitch, what you think you doing? You ain't gonna try to take my position. You can't do nothing. Your husband is a little fool. He's a son of a traitorous fool." Say it. And then Finnery was like, "Damn, what can I say?" And so she walked, So she's in the back while there's commotion there. All right, so how's the battle going in the town? Orders coming and going. And then out of nowhere, while Finnery is seething and thinking of all the ways she wants to stab Mead and everything, Elise kind of laughs and goes, "Who's that?" And then Finnery goes, "What?" And she looks out the eastern window, which was, that was in the east has been ignored because the battle is entirely to the north. And she sees this strange, ragged man emerge from the woods and stand on some rock, staring towards the inn, long black hair swaying in the wind. And something is off about this guy, because she goes, "Well, wait a minute. Most of the Dogman's men were supposed to be well behind him just in case, something happens. And there's something about this guy that just seems off, and she just can't quite put it, together." And then she calls over Captain Hardrick, who comes up, and she asks, "Is this one of the Dogman's men?" And he's like, "Huh? Who?" And he goes, "Oh, I I don't know. I don't really know. And, so, and then the guy on the rock, he just lifts something to his mouth, and then a second later we hear like a long mournful note. We hear a horn, right? Like a I imagine. And then Elise laughs. She goes, a horn, how jovial. But Finri immediately knew, uh-oh. And she grabs.
She's about to go down.
Shit's about to go down. She grabs Hardrick's arm. She goes, Captain, you need to write to General Jallenhorn and tell him we're under attack right now. He goes, what? What? And then he kind of like, oh, he's not smiling anymore. And then even Elise is like, uh-oh. Because now the entire tree line is full of men. And even at this distance, they could tell, oh, these are wild men. Long-haired, raggedy-ass clothes. Many of them are half naked. And now she realizes why that guy looks strange, because in the midst of all those other men, those hundreds of other men, there's some actual scale now that she has, and she realized he's a fucking giant. And then Finri's like, "You need to, huh?"
That is definitely Stranger Come Knocking, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
East,
so.
right? Yeah. And then he goes, she's like yelling at him, go find General Jallenhorn, find my father, something now. And then he goes, I should have orders, but Meade is like just watching the north. He's not even noticing what's going on to the east. And then at this point, Finri's not even trying to, like, she doesn't have time. She's smart. She knows, fuck this. I'm just going to do what's going to get everyone's attention. She's going to scream like a woman in a horror movie. Blood-curdling scream and everything. And now everyone kind of, like, looks. And then everyone looks. But she did shock Hardrick enough for him to start. He just ran for the door.
Sorry, Jeff. I like the fucking joke that Joe always does of the band like fucking up, like when something happens, like record scratch.
If only this band was the band that played in Styria in the House of Cardati's Leisure, maybe they would have had a chance.
You know what they needed? They needed the band from the Titanic. Those motherfuckers would have kept going.
Yeah.
To the very bitter end. Well,
He's
lads,
like, play something. Play a Marshall tune.
something Marshall. Captain Luther.
Oh, my man.
Throwback. And so now that she's screaming, everyone's looking. Now people are seeing all the Northmen to the east, and so now there's pandemonium. Oh shit! There's man the walls. Do we even have walls? What's going on here? And then
get some archers. Do we even have archers?
Yeah. So now there's do we have archers? That's so funny. Get the shutters. Do we have shutters?
Yeah. Where's Colonel Brent? Do we have Colonel Brent?
Yeah. And so then. So everyone's that now it's like, oh, we got to get to battle station somehow, but it's the headquarters for Meade's division.
It's great because normally this situation would be like, oh, these guys just came out of nowhere, huh? But it was set up. We had Stranger Come Knocking talking about how he was going to be sneaking around, and the Dogman talked about how he was looking for some wild men to the east that he had rumors of, so he was trying to find them.
That doesn't come in yet. That comes in next.
Oh, sorry.
But somebody did say to Meade as well. I think it was actually Finri that says to Meade, like, "Oh no, the woods haven't been scouted properly."
Yes, she said the woods haven't been scouted yet.
He's just like, "Don't, shut up."
And he also says, he's like, like I said last time, he's like some Empire officer from Star Wars. He's like, send in all legions, wipe them out. And so he has no reserves, no one to protect the headquarters, no one to protect his flanks.
Right. And was set up even earlier when Dow was saying he's sending Stranger Come Knocking through the east.
Yes.
He said that.
Good. I like that it's set up that way.
Mm-hmm. And so now we see this in action. And now she thinks there's at least 2,000 of the Northmen, of the east of the Krynna guys. And there's only more. There's like, what, 100 at the end? Lightly armed. She goes, oh, fuck. And then, so Elise is panicking. She goes, we're trapped. And Finri's trying to be calm. She goes, help will be coming from the Dogman, or even though I know she notes that the Dogman had very reasonably made every effort to put as much ground between himself and Meade as possible. And she goes, or General Jallenhorn. And she notes, whose men were in such a disorganized shambles after yesterday's disaster that they were no help to themselves, let alone anyone else, or from our husbands, who were both thoroughly entangled with the attack on Ostrong and probably had not the slightest idea there was an attack coming right behind them. She has no idea where help would be coming from. Obviously we see there's a lot of panic, a lot of pandemonium, and she sees that Mead is kind of standing in the middle of all this, and everyone's just ignored him, and he's just uncertain himself. And he looks at Finri. He's like, "What do we do? What should we do?" And then it wasn't until she opened her mouth she realized, well, she doesn't really know herself. So that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate that?
Harrison?
I think this is a really good escalation. It shows a lot of dynamic, and I think I'm gonna give it a 6 and a knuckle because I think it's done really well, but it's also kind of like we're right there on the cusp of the
right
event. We're starting the change, the day 2 drama. So I think that's fair. I think I kind of already highlighted everything I like about the chapter so far.
Mm-hmm. Georgie?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 6.5 as well. I like that you see these two stories are, like you said, escalating very quickly at this point. And I really love the way that Joe's pacing this book, you know. And I think the ratings going forward are going to reflect that. But yeah, I'd say it's 6.5.
Do I go with the trifecta, or do I go with my honest score?
Go with your heart, Jeffrey. Go with your heart.
I want to give it a 7. Really like this chapter. A nice little, like you said, it's an escalating chapter, and we're seeing 2 different viewpoints. All right, of two characters who both had ambitions, right? Used the war to elevate their position, their status, right? Beck and Finri, and now the fear is coming in, is taking hold of them, right? They're about to. They're confronted with the reality of war, right?
Yeah.
It's right in their face, or it's about to be right in their face. It's not, and it's easy like for us to say like, oh, Finri got scared, but here's the difference: Beck hid in a cupboard, didn't even try to help Bray. Yeah. Finri is at least has enough presence of mind, right, to do what needs to be done to get everyone's attention. At least something. Yeah. At least something can be tried to be done, right? And so I like the duality, you could say, the polarity there. And just a great escalating chapter. 7 out of 9 fingers for me.
Nice.
All right, so we'll move on to our next segment, which is Best Meme of the Week. Georgie boy, that's a you. Take it away.
So this week we have a user on Reddit, Taco Tuesdays. And this is a perfect one because it is literally about the chapter that we've just read. It's fantastic. It's the Starship Troopers meme. I'm doing my part. Reft, I'm doing my part. Colving, I'm doing my part. Stodder, I'm doing my part. And then Beck, I didn't do fucking shit.
That's great. Terribly depressing and perfect.
It is terribly depressing. But that is absolutely fantastic. It's always good to see Starship Troopers memes.
Yeah,
I do enjoy that.
No, it's great because it's so reflective. Beck, what are we gonna do with you? I guess, you can hide as much as you want, but with the Union Storm, I guess that's it for you, man.
Can't hide from the guild.
Can't hide. So
very much for that Taco Tuesdays on
Taco
Reddit.
Tuesdays. Thank you. And again, we want more submissions.
More submissions all the time.
Keep them coming. All right, so we'll move on to our chapter read through, which is Chains of Command. Love this chapter. This is one of those shifting perspectives that Joe does so well. And then I think this is really the second time he's done it. So at this point, right? He hasn't really done it too much before this. Heroes is the first instance.
I think the only other one we've seen so far is Casualties, and then which is when it follows the chain of people dying or being killed.
Right.
But whereas this one is obviously literally following a chain of command.
Yeah. And so we start off from the perspective of somebody that we've seen plenty, but never got a peek inside their mind. Lord Marshal Croy. Oh, man. Excited for this one, aren't you, boys?
Oh, yeah. I've always wanted to see a Lord Marshal Croy, or a Croy chapter in general. And now we're finally getting it.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of rain going on, but it's more of a drizzle than anything. But it's enough where it's obscuring vision.
It's enough that you might as well wear a bucket on your head.
Yeah, as he says. And then he thinks to himself that people think that a Lord Marshal wields supreme power, right, on the battlefield. But people didn't think about the things that actually constrain his authority, right? The weather ignores orders, right? Balancing politics, what the monarch decides, what they want, and versus like the mood or feeling of the public. Logistical difficulties, right? Supply, transport, signaling, discipline, and the bigger the army, the more pronounced these difficulties are, right? And then he's got to choose a good headquarters with well enough behind the line so he could see everything with a good vantage point, but you can never really see everything, if anything. And orders might take, half an hour, 30 minutes, whatever, or longer to get to where they need to get to. And then maybe by that time, the situation has changed, and maybe the orders would be actually damaging, right, to the current situation.
Mm-hmm.
So he says the higher you climb up the chain of command, the more links between you and the naked steel, the more imperfect the communication became. And all these other factors at play, cowardice, rashness, incompetence, or good intentions, and they might mess up what your purpose is. Right? With every promotion, he had looked forward to slipping the shackles and standing all powerful. And with every promotion, he found himself more helpless than before. He even snaps at a servant who's like, "Hey, would you like some brandy and water?" He's like, "Shut up! I will not get work." He's like, "Oh fuck! I shouldn't have done that."
I like that he says it though. Like, I shouldn't have done that because you already know Polder would have been like, "Nah, he doesn't even know how important I am."
Hey, listen, no. Let's give Polder respect. All right, man gave his life for the Union.
He would have had that brandy though.
Yeah.
Give me the whole damn bottle, boy.
Yeah, he's also compounded with the fact that Finry had put herself so close to the front lines, with Governor Meade.
That'd be so frustrating. It'd be so hard to focus on what to do next because you just want to go over there and save her. But because he's trying to overcompensate, and it's perfect for tension too because we know that Finry's in danger, and now we're getting this intercut with him being like, "I hope Finry's not in danger."
Right? Yeah, and he keeps trying to look through his eyeglass to see where the inn is, but he can't even he can't see it that well. And then he had received a report that worried him from Dogman that there were signs of savages from beyond the Krina in the countryside to their east. And he goes, if these men that the Dogman thinks are savage, then they got to be real savage indeed. Excuse me. And
I like this translation of his thoughts directly into his language. Not a lot of characters actually do this. I feel like I would say the smart characters do this inside of Joe's world, the more self-aware ones, and maybe Croy wasn't that way before, but he is now. He's basically talking about it's all the little details, making sure everything is right, and that was frustrating to him. And an army is made of details the way the house is made of bricks. One brick is carelessly laid, the whole is compromised. But attend to the perfect mortaring of every. And he goes, "Huh," out loud. I am a bloody mason.
Yeah.
I like that that's there because one, it shows him just perfectly translating his own thoughts directly and then talking to himself. It's a good moment for his character. But also I like that despite how annoying and how frustrating Baez is, many times most characters and the audience can't help but realize that Baez, to a certain degree, is most of the time right. And Army is he is a Mason, ultimately, in his own little way.
That's the thing, isn't it? But Baez is so callous that it seems like he's being evil, but he's really just being really practical.
Yeah, he's being ultra practical.
The ultimate pragmatist. And Felnig kind of knows that Croy is worried, obviously, because especially he's looking at the east. And he says, well, the latest report from Meade says that things were going well. They've got most of southern Osrong occupied and are making an effort on the bridge. He goes, all right, so things were good in half an hour ago. He goes, yeah. Okay. And so, but nothing could be gained if he was worrying. If his entire army had been as brave and resourceful as his daughter, they would have already won and been on their way home.
That's so sweet.
And then I like how he goes, he almost pitied the Northmen who ran across her in a bad mood. I don't know about that.
That is amazing foreshadowing, actually.
Yeah. Well, so now he's looking at the west, looking towards the old bridge. Or, thinks he does because he can't tell, Again, this drizzle's crazy. And anything about the left side, and Felnig says that the last word from Mideric was that his second assault had been blunted. So, all right. So then Croy goes, well, yeah, by now we'll have failed. Still, it's tough work carrying a bridge against determined resistance. And Felnig is kind of like, And Croy goes, look, Mideric may lack many things, but persistence is not one of them. And the Felnig is like, no, sir, he is persistently an ass.
I love Croy's rejoinder there. It's like, now, every man needs an ass, if only to sit on.
Awesome.
Yeah, so but he knows that if Midderic's second assault had failed, he's already preparing another one, and the Northmen are probably off balance. And so he knows, like, the general who waits to make a decision until he knew everything he needed to know would never make one.
And that's exactly what Wes had said as well, which is cool.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, you're right. He has to feel the moment, anticipate the ebb and flow of battle, all that stuff. So his instincts were telling him that the crucial moment on the left wing is soon coming. So he went to go write a note, and basically what he did is he wrote an order to Colonel Valamir. It says, General Midderic's troops are heavily engaged at the old bridge. Soon he will force the enemy to commit all his reserves. I wish you to begin your attack immediately. Therefore, as discussed, and with every man at your disposal, good luck. And then he gives it to Felnig, and he says, I want you to
Croy, First Lord Marshal of the Small Kingdom.
Queen of the Roinar, Lord for the mother to all, so he says. And so he basically gives it to Felnig, and Felnig's like, he might take it better from a messenger, but he doesn't want him to have any excuse to ignore it, so that's why he tells Felnig to take it. Croy does admire Felnig because he rarely betrays his feelings, but is obviously his distaste for Mideric was evidently more than he could suppress. And he goes, if I must, Lord Marshal, and he plucks the...
He's like, yeah.
Oh my God, I guess if I gotta do it. And so then now we shift perspectives to Colonel Felnig. And he, takes a couple of nips from his flask, our boy's a drinker, seems like. And then there's a bit of like, he kind of like, we get some history here. He says that if it had been Felnig put in command of the siege of Ulriach all those years ago, and Croy sent off on a fruitless ride to dusty nowhere, Felnig who had reaped the glory, and Croy who had ridden back thirsty with his 20 captured wagons to find himself a forgotten man, things could have so easily been different. Felnig might have been the Lord Marshal now, and Croy his glorified messenger boy. Interesting. So Felnig harbors some resentment, it seems like. Maybe not towards Croy, but maybe part. Yeah,
I think he does. I mean, I think he hasn't really figured it out all the way himself because he just feels what he feels. But I think he respects Croy and he follows Croy's orders because he's a good soldier. He wishes he was him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he rides, through the field, I guess you could say. He goes through Jallenhorn's men who are still struggling to find some kind of organization. Purpose. There needs to be purpose. There needs to be order.
Which is kind of great, right? Because Felnig is kind of like how Croy was to a degree, it almost feels like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right.
Everything must be by the book. Everything must be by the letter. That's how it gets all done. Blah, blah, blah. Not that Croy isn't like that to a degree anymore, but he seems to be more tempered.
Maybe
he's a little less rigid.
Okay. I think so. Yeah, probably. And then he kind of he internally chastises, Jallenhorn because joke, and not even a funny joke. No wit, no experience for a sergeant's place, let alone a general's. But apparently, you go drinking with the king back in the day, and that's enough. Instead of years of competence and dedicated service, it would have been enough to make a lesser man quite better. But Felnig, it drove only to greater heights of excellence.
Oh my god.
He slowed for a moment to take another nip from his flask. Okay.
Oh. Oh no.
He rides past where some kind of accident must have occurred. Two huge tubes of dark metal. Basically, he came across like what happened with Baez's experiment with the cannons.
Yeah, the cannons. Yeah.
The death tubes, and and then he's like, out of the way. He doesn't, and he just, some more remarks about lack of organization, purpose, even or disobedience, and then a servant carrying a bucket, kind of like suddenly like stepped in front of him from a doorway, and his horse kind of reared and everything, and Felnig again goes out of the way, and without thinking hits him in the face, the servant, with his riding crop, and the guy.
Whoa!
Yeah.
No need for that.
This bucket of water all across the wall and everything, and Feldnik keeps riding, and then he does realize he knows he shouldn't have done that, and he had let anger get the better of him, and the realization only made him angrier than ever. Is that compounded anger?
It's always the best thing to do, right, guys? If you are feeling angry with yourself, take it out on other people.
Yeah, that always works out. No ramifications whatsoever. He gets to Minarik's headquarters, and it is, to his mind, it's chaos. There's no order. Everyone's just running around. And then he goes, and he sees Minarik is leaning over a table, looking at a map, and just his revulsion for the man was almost like a headwind, right? The worst kind of soldier, the kind that dresses his incompetence up as flair, and to make matters worse, he fooled people more often than not. But he did not fool Felnig. I like how he steps up and gives an impeccable salute. And then he does the thing where he tells you he has an order for the King's Own 1st Regiment from Lord Marshal Croy. I would be gratified if you could dispatch it at once.
Which is interesting, because I'm pretty sure that, let's see here. Does he say you take it?
Says take it to General Minarik.
Okay. I was thinking, it seems like a weird thing to do. Shouldn't he just take it straight to Colonel Valamir? I don't know.
Because Valamir's
chain of command. I get it. I know. Name of the
yeah. So, and Minarik is like, well, we're a little busy soldiering here. So if you could just leave it. And he goes, that would not be good enough, General. He was about to slap him with his gloves. The Lord Marshal was most specific, and I must insist on haste. Minarik goes, oh, must you now? Yes, I absolutely must. And he thrust the order at Minarik, like, here, take this. And then we switch perspectives again. Now it's Minarik's perspective. And he snatches it just to prevent himself from punching Felnig in the face. He goes, and I like how now we have a mirrored analysis of the other, right? Felnig.
Yes. They both fucking hate each other.
Yeah. So now it's Minarik starting to go, Felnig, what an ass. What an arrogant, pedantic fool. A prickly stickler with no imagination, no initiative, none of what the Northmen called, with their gift for simplicity, bones.
And I love going on through this story. Like, we've just heard Felnig's side of that story at Oriok, and then Minarik's like, actually, there were only 6 wagons. Like, Felnig, like, even in his own head, he's like absolutely exaggerating his own importance.
Maybe Minarik is undermining him in his own head.
Either way, it could be either way, couldn't it? Like,
Or
it could be the truth.
It's probably a combination of both. Yeah.
It could have been 10 wagons. Who knows? And he does. Like, Minarik doesn't have any negative feelings towards Croy, it seems like. Not really. He goes after Croy, won his great victory at Ulriach. And then he goes, remembered Felnig demanding to have his contribution noted.
And it does seem like Felnig's wasted his entire battalion there to get those 6 wagons as well. So,
Yeah, who knows?
Sounds about right.
He was the worst kind of soldier, the kind that dresses his stupidity up as discipline, and to make matters worse, he fooled more people more often than not. But he did not fool Minerick.
Love it. How petty these people are as well. And he's just like, what an ass. Look at him, ass.
What a suppurating ass.
A suppurating ass. It's so fucking petty. It's hilarious.
And, you know, he talks. He knows to himself that he already 2 of his assaults of the bridge had failed, so he has a 3rd one to prepare, and no time to waste on this pompous streak of bureaucracy. So he goes to his chief of staff, and he's telling him, he's like, "Listen, I want to get the 7th ready. I want the 2nd in place right behind them. I want cavalry across the bridge. Blah blah blah. The fields are made for a charge. Get the Keln regiment out of the way. Blah 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 blah." And then a finger jabs him in the shoulder, and it's Felnig, and he goes, "This order must be attended to at once, General Minerick, at once." And he basically sprayed him with spit. And Minerick, he looks at the order, he reads it, you know, he reads what Croy wrote. And because the 1st had been attached to Minerick's division, it was his responsibility to clarify their instructions. So Croy's order was good, it was lean and efficient, but he wasn't gonna miss an opportunity to frustrate Felnig as much as he can. So he adds to the order. He goes, "Ensure that the enemy are fully engaged before crossing the stream, and in the meantime, take care not to give away your position on their flank. My men and I are giving our all. I will not have them let down." General Minerick, 2nd Division, Queen of the Roinar in the annals. And so then he goes out of his tent, the headquarters, and he goes, "Where the hell is that boy from Valamir's regiment? What's his name? Leperlisper?"
I love all the time that Tunney's intentionally been getting it wrong, and then he comes to actually getting it wrong. It's so funny.
It's a weird one to get. It makes it even for us readers to like when we first started, like maybe I know we mentioned it a little bit, but even before we started reading the book, we were like, what was his name? We were like, what is? Oh, that's awesome.
And then he snaps to attention. "Leader Ligon, sir." Minerick, sir. Minerick goes, "Oh, this guy, I wouldn't even trust him to carry my chamber pot, but whatever." As Bialoveld once said, "In battle, one must often make the best of contrary conditions." He tells him to take... Yeah.
Always a good sign.
Always a good sign. He says, "Take this to Colonel Valamir at once. It's from the Lord Marshal, highest importance." And then now he switched perspectives to Leader Ligon. He goes, "Okay." He goes, yes, move. Sorry. And so he got into his saddle, and he looks back, and he sees that Minerick is arguing with a... oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. He sees a thin, chinless officer in a heavily starched uniform was hissing something incomprehensible at the general. So they're still bickering. And among them, he sees a large, sad-eyed man with virtually no neck who seemed vaguely familiar. We know that's Gorst, and he had seen Gorst back when he talked to Sergeant Forrest, I think it was, right? In front of Tunney and the
Yeah, that's where he met him, presumably.
So he was like actually kind of happy to be going because the headquarters seemed to be even more like scary than the front lines. So, he's writing and he's holding on to that order. He didn't even pocket it because he's so nervous. He goes, he's fuck that. He thinks back while he's writing. He thinks back to his cousin who had warned him to not enlist, right? That wars were upside down places where good men did worse than bad. Rich man's ambitions, poor man's graves. Not 2 honest fellows to strike a spark of decency, yada, yada, yada. And then he thinks to Corporal Tunney in particular gave this strong impression of being a coward, braggart, bully, and thief all at once. As thorough a villain as Leader Ligon had laid eyes upon in his life, but by some magic almost celebrated by the other men as a hero.
I love that Letterlinger sees right through it. It's kind of cool. Like Lettlinger's like the last person you'd see.
I think it's kind of awesome. I think they all do though.
Well,
he's not hiding
true. It's because he's the boss, right? So everyone is like, "Oh, You're so smart.
Leader Ligon doesn't have enough experience to know why the other men are like they.
Okay,
they said,
that's fair.
You know
That's
what I mean?
It's a good point.
Remember, he's a rookie. He's a recruit. And then as he's thinking about his cousin's opinion and everything, he feels like, oh, a wasp stung his leg. But he looks down and then he sees it's not a wasp, it's an arrow in his thigh.
And I like that his first thought is a fake arrow.
He was hoping somebody played a joke on him, but he realized there's blood soaking into his trousers. It was a real arrow. Someone was shooting at him. So he dug his heels into his horse's flanks and he screamed, but his horse had kind of jerked forward and he lost his grip on the reins and he falls off the saddle. And he staggers up, half hopped. He drew his sword and he sees two men on the path behind, Northmen. One of them was walking towards them with the knife in his hand. The other one had a bow, and he yells help, but he's like, it's weak. And then another arrow hit him right through the jacket sleeve, right through his arm. This time it hurt immediately, and he dropped his sword, went down on his leg, went down belly first. He still had the order in his fist. He tried to get up, but then something hit him in the side of the neck and made his head jolt. And now we switch perspectives over to Foss Deep, who had plucked the bit of paper out of the Southerner's hand, wiped his knife on the back of his jacket, and then planted a boot on his head and pushed his face down into the bloody mud. Just because, Jesus. Didn't want him screaming any, in part on account of stealth, but in part just because he found these days he didn't care for the sounds of persons dying. If it had to be done, so. But he didn't need to hear about it. Thank you very much all the same. Jesus Christ. Poor Leader Ligon, or Leather Liquor, or Leperlisper. And then Shallow got the horse and was leading him back. Goes, oh, she's a good one, no? Don't call her she. It's a horse, not your wife. And then Shallow goes, well, she's better looking than your wife was.
Damn!
Like I said, that's rude and uncalled for. Like it's just they've just murdered this guy and they're like just casually insulting each other.
Honestly, though, it's the most brother shit ever.
Yeah, bro. And then he goes, how are you going to get it back over the river? He's talking about the horse. That would be worth a pretty penny. But Foss is like, no, there's a battle on the bridge, you goofball. We can't drag that through a bog. And he goes, just kill it. He's like, oh, just kill. I don't like this. Fuck Foss Deep. I don't like this. We're going to really gloss over this part. Basically, Shallow is forced to kill the horsey. I'm not reading about that. Don't like that at all.
Fair enough.
And then Shallow goes, there's no money in killing horses. We're taking riskies and nufsies coming over here. Coming over here in the first place. And then Foss is immediately like, stop it. Stop what? And Foss just goes, talking like a child. It's odd. It's weird. It's like your head's trapped at 4 years old.
My parts of speech upset you?
And he goes, yes, it does. And then Shallow goes, guess I'll have to stop see-wopsy then.
These two are just so ridiculous, crammed into the middle of this war novel. It's just fucking Tweedledee and Tweedledum having an argument in the fucking woods.
And then Dop, Foss Deep. I said Dop. Foss Deep just kind of does the. He goes, one day I'll kill him, or the other way around. I've known it ever since I was 10 years old. And so they go, so he looks at the paper, and Shallow goes, what is it? And then Deep turns slowly to look at him. And he goes, you would have been surprised if today turned out to be the day. Then he kills him. He goes, did I learn to read Southerner in my sleep and not realize? How the fuck should I know what this is? He goes, all right. Looks important, though. Yeah. So it does indeed have every appearance of significance. So I guess it becomes a question of who we know might find themselves tempted to pay for it, basically. And they both look at each other and they say at the same time, Calder. So now we switch over to the perspective of Calder. And now he sees that Wide-Eye Hansel rides up, this time riding fast and no smile. His shield had an arrow in it and a cut across his forehead. He'd seen some action, and Calder goes, oh, no. And Hansel tells him, yep, Scale wants you to bring your men up. The Southerners are coming across the bridge again, and this time they've come hard. He can't hold out much longer. all right, Calder's to get them ready. It's a pail of snow. And then he's just kind of like, fuck. And then he hears, your princeliness. And he looks and he goes, Foss Deep, you always come upon me at my brightest moments. And he goes, yeah, I could smell desperation. So he goes, what's the matter? I got a battle to die in. And he goes, look, we found something that might be of interest. And before that, Shallow goes, look, a rainbow. Oh, my God. And Calder goes, did you just want to draw my attention to the endless beauty all around us? Or is there something more to the point?
The endless beauty.
He holds out the paper. He goes, for a price. He goes, the price for paper isn't high. Of course not. Yes, it's what's on it. Oh, it's a letter. Yes. So he just snatches it. Look, if it's important, give it to me. You know, I'll pay you for what it's worth, or you can peddle your rainbow somewhere else. So they go, all right, well, we'll take our chances. They give it to Calder, and Calder reads it. So he reads it in its entirety, right? He goes, General Colonel Vitter. Hold on.
You better clip that, George.
Just someone else read it, please. Someone else read it. I'm tired.
You talking about the letter, right?
Yeah, just read the letter again.
Coder Valiant. General Minder's troops are heavily engaged on the old bridge. Soon he will be forced the enemy to commit all his reserves. I wish you to begin your attack immediately. Therefore, as discussed, with every man at your disposal. Good luck. Then, what might have been a name, but it was right in the crease, the paper was all scuffed, and Calder couldn't make any sense of it. It looked like an old order, but he had never heard of any Valimir. An attack at the old bridge? That was hardly news. He was about to throw it away when he caught the second block of writing in a wilder, slanting hand. Ensure that the enemy are fully engaged before crossing the stream. And in the meantime, take care not to give away our position, give away your position on their flank. My men and I are giving it our all. I will not have them let down. General get 2nd Division.
Queen of the Seven Kingdoms and the Roinar.
The Roinar in the first one.
Brebadan goes to Royal Observer another more.
So Calder he goes, wait a minute. He remembered that Dow had mentioned Mideric, one of the Union's generals, sharp but reckless. Sounds like a pompous idiot. My men and I have given her all. He goes, all right. But he says, ordering an attack across a stream on the flank, not the river and not the bridge. So he's looking around the terrain, trying to make sense of this. And then he realizes, he goes, oh, fuck. There's Union men in the woods over there on the west. You're ready to cross and take them in the flank at any moment. There just had to be. And Shallow goes, ooh, is it worth something then? But Calder ignores him. He goes up to the rise, and he snaps open his eyeglass, and he starts looking. Wide Eye goes like, what's the matter? And then he sees like, oh, there could be men there. It's like hidden enough. Right? So now he doesn't know what to do. Should he keep his promise, charge to his brother's aid, but risk the whole army's ass to the enemy, or stay behind the wall but leave Scale, alone? Hold the line, prevent disaster, or what? He doesn't know what to do. He needed someone desperately to tell him what to do. He wished Seth was with him. She always had bold ideas, and she was brave. Calder wasn't made for riding to the rescue. Hanging back, saving his own skin, killing prisoners. Not doing it himself, of course, but ordering it done.
What would you guys have done?
Poking other men's wives while they were doing the fighting.
Oh, shit. What? Damn you, Jeffrey. Damn you. What would you guys have done if you guys found this order?
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously that is the order to attack. So if the order's been intercepted, then surely the danger isn't there anymore.
Right. That's what I thought is as well.
Right.
That's why it's my belief that Calder's decision to stay is the wrong move, I think. But the thing is, though, is Calder makes his decision to stay because he now has an excuse to stay, not because he thinks it's the smartest thing to do.
Yeah.
I think
so. Or because he's so scared of what might happen.
Right.
Like he says, he doesn't know how to make decisions.
Right, but remember the order. Ensure that the enemy are fully engaged before crossing. True. So in his head, he's like, as soon as I engage, they're going to take us in the flank.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, is Calder, he can split up his men.
But he doesn't know how many men are there.
No, of course, but like, you know what Bethod would have done? I almost guarantee you, Bethod would have fucking fainted. He would have had his troops move forward with everybody knowing that their flank could be in the thing, and and be prepared for it. That's what I'm saying. He could have moved up. He could have moved all his guys up, or hidden half his guys and moved the other guys up, and then whenever they try to take him in the flank, double flank them.
Right.
There's things that he could have done that Calder is capable of doing.
He could have directly just crossed.
Or he could have just fucking attacked the stream. Said, okay, well, I'm gonna take those guys out, and that would have fucked him up. And at least he would have done some fighting, and people would have been like, oh, he's actually.
But here's the thing: we have Wide Eye and Pale Snow there, seasoned chiefs. You could say war chiefs or second in command, whatever. And so when he tells them that they're a union on the other side of that stream, then they realize, like, oh shit, are you sure? And because he has their orders, but he says they'll get more orders eventually. But maybe they won't.
But he also said because he could hear the Carls around him muttering because he knew that they were passing the news around. Probably that was no bad thing. Probably that was why he had shouted about it.
Right, because then he didn't want to be seen as a coward. Right. That the situation he's in is a difficult one. So
it's definitely difficult. It puts him in a tough spot. But I just don't think that doing nothing is the right move, ultimately.
Right. So he goes 10 ways. Maybe 10 ways. He goes, Hansel, get up to Scarling's finger, tell Broad 10 ways that we've got the Union out there in the woods to the west. Tell him Scale needs him now or we'll lose the old bridge. And Hansel goes, 10 ways. But then, Dow said he should help if we needed it. We need it. But get up there anyway. So Pale and Snow, Hansel, they look at each other, and then Wide Eye, he gets on his horse and he goes towards Scarling's finger. So he goes like, what should they do? Like he's still thinking like he goes 10 ways has to help. If we lose that bridge and we're all in the shit. He goes, this is about the whole North. As if he really gave a shit about that, right? And then, even Pale Snow goes, look, if the world worked that way, we'd have no need for swords in the first place. No offense, Calder, but 10 ways hates you like the plague hates the living, and he doesn't feel a stretch warmer towards your brother. He won't put himself or his men on the line for your sake. Whatever Dow says, if you want your brother helped, I reckon you'll have to do it yourself and soon. So what do we do? And Calder goes, fuck, he's right. Well, what should he do? Still, just because he doesn't know yet, right? He tells 10 ways. He tells Hansel to get 10 ways. At the very least, that means he's expecting some more men, so then maybe he can engage, but we don't know yet, right? Because that's gonna be later. And then as he's scanning the woods again. For a second he thought he caught the glint of another eyeglass trained on him. And then we switch perspectives, and Corporal Tunney peers through his eyeglass towards the wall, and he wondered if just for an instant he caught the glint of another trained eyeglass on him. I love the mirroring thing that Joe does.
Yes, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. He's done it with almost every perspective shift in this chapter as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I find absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. And, Yolk is asking him if there's any movement. Tunney goes, nope, they're just sitting there. And he's like, yep, welcome to the glory fields, Trooper Yolk. And then where the fuck has Leader Ligon got to? And then Tunney goes, I don't know. And then he looks behind his shoulder. He sees that Valimir is he's raging out, this time directed at Forrest, poor Sergeant Forrest. And I like how Yolk leans in. He goes, every man shitting on the man below, Corporal. I like how Tunney goes, you're developing a keen sense of the mechanisms of His Majesty's forces. I believe you'll make a fine general one day. And Yolk goes, my ambition doesn't go past Corporal. So he's like, yeah, that's very wise, very wise. And then Forrest comes over to him. Not Forrest doesn't come over to him, but now we get a glimpse of that conversation between Forrest and Valimir because there's still no orders. And Valimir like, fuck, it's like the right time to go. Anybody can see that, but we can't go without orders. No, of course we can't go without orders. That'd be dereliction of duty, that would be. But this is the right time. So, of course, General Bloody Mitterick will be demanding to know why I didn't act on my own initiative. Initiative, Forrest, huh? What the bloody hell is that except an excuse to demote a man? Just yelling. All right. Tunney just hands his eyeglass to Yolk, and he's just going to wedge himself so he could go ahead and get some sleep. And then he says, wake me if there's any changes.
by some miracle. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate Chains of Command?
Oh, it's got to be a 9 out of 9.
Yeah, I do. I really enjoy this chapter so much. How about you, Harrison?
This is a 9 out of 9. Yeah, I think this is one of the best chapters that is in this book. It's because the way it transitions down, it follows these characters. We do see some people. We do see sorry, I'm so sorry. Letter writer or whatever getting killed. So
Leather
liquor. I think we get a lot of characterization for a lot of characters. We get Croy, which is such a unique, cool perspective of getting to see him when we've been wanting to. We do get Calder, and we get a main guy, but we get other views, and it follows like this little narrative. And this little narrative of following people, it's almost like a camera panning across the battlefield, and you're getting a little bit of getting across the whole chain of command, which is the whole intention. I think the narrative aspect of seeing all the points of views is super cool, super interesting, and just written really, really well. So I think this is better than Casualties, to be honest.
Wow.
I got to agree. I've got to agree with that.
Casualties is great. It's the first of its kind, very unique, but like this is so much more flavor, you know?
I feel like because we already know all of these characters, there's more attached to it. Whereas in Casualties, they're all pretty much all strangers, except
and
for,
they all die too,
and they all die as well.
Yeah.
And I just want to say as well, I absolutely love the comic relief of fucking Deep and Shallow in the middle there.
Yes.
There's comedy in almost every part. I love it.
It's very good.
It is. It's all right. It's just as good as Casualties. I'm wondering if it is better, in my opinion.
You don't have to decide right now, Jeffrey.
Right, but I am giving it a 9 out of 9. Trifecta.
Yay!
It's a great chapter. It's a great chapter. I mean, Harrison, your analysis was pretty on point. I can't really add to it. But it's about like cultivating that further character depth of all these characters that we've seen, like you mentioned, and it's fantastic stuff. But there's plot movement, right? There is, and it's great. So we see plot movement all across the battle, essentially, in one cohesive, flowing chapter. It's fantastic. So yeah, 9 out of 9 fingers all across the board. Trifecta.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
And so we'll move on to our final segment, boys. This is Character Spot. Who else can we spotlight but good old, poor old Leperlisper?
Letter writer?
Letter liquor?
Oh dear. Even in death, people keep getting his name wrong.
Oh my god. And you know the fucked up thing is that no one's gonna find him.
Leperlisper.
Leperlisper because Lickspittle, because the problem is Foss and Shallow, they covered him with branches.
Yep, then he's just going to be MIA, so he's missing.
That's it.
forever.
Poor Liederligan. Oh my
Well,
Lord.
you know what MIA is in the Union Army. What's funny is I don't think like I can't remember. Does Tunney and that little group even talk about him ever again?
No, they do. They do.
They do right at the end, but like for now, he is pretty much forgotten, isn't he? He's just like he's gone, and that's it. See
I love too that he was the one who was like, "I'm a volunteer. Like I want to be here. Like I have a message. I have a mission. This is my time to shine."
And he also completely sees through the whole fucking facade of everybody. Like everybody's so fucking incompetent.
He's actually so
Tunney's a fucking cunt. Yeah,
Yeah, he's the one that joined. He actually enlisted.
Yeah, he wanted to do good. So tragic.
he gets fucking moitered.
But well done, Joe. Another tragic character.
Oh, the best soldier in the Union Army.
Gone too soon. So young.
We'll love you forever, Leather Liquor.
Old men declare war, young men fight them and die in them. Oh, man. Leaderligan, we hardly knew ye. Rest in peace. Or back to the mud. Well, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover closing arguments, straight edge, and escape.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media or shoot us an email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
What was his name? Leperlisper?